This is a Relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, we don't know what's going on with Iran and Israel and the United States for that matter, but it can't be good. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief of the world's most powerful military, absolutely exploding, relatively speaking, on those two nations, on Israel and Iran, just a short time right before we're recording this episode. Welcome to the episode, everybody. Grateful to have you here. But the president announcing a ceasefire between these two nations and then almost immediately acknowledging that things are not going how he planned, how he intended, how he expected. So where do we go from here? We're talking to you after a few days of escalating violence in the Middle East, bombings back and forth, tit for tat, an American military base in Qatar attacked by Iran after American planes took out Iranian nuclear assets. Now, all of this predictable, I guess. No casualties, thankfully. When that American military base was hit, of course, because Iran gave the heads up. So why does Iran do this? Why is the United States involved in the first place? We will seek to understand all of this in just a moment with political scientist Duane Bratt, who's been keeping a keen eye on all of this. Nuclear is his thing. He studies the nuclear realities around the world. And, of course, with Israel, by way of Benjamin Netanyahu alleging that Iran has been developing or is very close to developing a capable, formidable nuclear program, the capability to attack potentially Israel and beyond. The questions swirl. Is this legitimate, this attack on Iran, or does this reek of that weapons of mass destruction story a while back? Remember that, everybody, that sent Western nations to war in Iraq? You remember that? Well, you're not alone, I'm sure. If you're asking questions about exactly what's going on here and ultimately what it means for the rest of the world, including Canada, we're going to get to that in just a bit. Plus, closer to home, right here in our home province of Alberta, by-elections, 3 of them. Really, no gains, no losses for either of the parties, but it does mean that the Alberta NDP will officially see its leader, Naheed Nenshi, into the legislature, which is a big deal. We'll talk to Dr. Bratt about that. And on the back nine of this episode, kind of a cool thing happening in the city of Edmonton. Maybe a different approach to downtown revitalization, to reinventing downtown assets, including buildings. We're going to talk to the 3 organizers, or 3 of the organizers behind this Homestead Investment Co-operative, including Edmonton's former mayor, Don Iveson, who just so happened to be the very first guest in Real Talk history. All of that's coming up in just a quick second. Dr. Duane Bratt is standing by, but why don't we get to set the scene here, to set the tone, to the comment made by the President of the United States. This is Donald Trump just hours ago indicating his, what do you want to call it, displeasure with Iran and Israel, who continue to shell one another after Trump's ceasefire was announced.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
All right. I think everybody understands that. I can't remember the last time that the world heard a sitting American president drop an F-bomb like that. Dr. Duane Bratt is basically a well-known political scientist across the country and beyond, out of Mount Royal University in Calgary. We talked to him about international stories. We talked to him about stories closer to home. Can you recollect the last time an American president dropped an F-bomb on live TV?
No, and he did that deliberately. If you watch the body language, he was using that for emphasis. There was a big scandal when the Nixon tapes came out, and Nixon used the F word privately, not on television. So
let's get into this ceasefire.
And when he says Israel and Iran don't know what the fuck they're doing, I would add Donald J. Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
That seems to be the most recurring feedback that I'm seeing in the comments on social media relating to this. I mean, everybody's paying attention now. If the world wasn't paying attention to this before, the world is now. Why all of this? Israel attacking Iran. Let's kind of rewind the tape a little bit, and then you can bring us up to speed, because it's been a dramatic number of days.
Yeah, so let's go back to some basic nuclear science here that I think is important for your listeners, because they've been hearing about enrichment facilities and they've got highly enriched uranium. Well, what is that? So uranium, what makes uranium special is its fissile material. That allows either a controlled chain reaction of splitting atoms apart for electricity, or an uncontrolled chain reaction splitting atoms apart for a nuclear bomb. But if you look at uranium, it's dominated by two major isotopes, U-238 and U-235. U-238 isn't fissile. It's U-235 that is the fissile material. But U-235 only occurs naturally about 0.7% of all uranium. So to get the percentage of U-235 up higher, you have to use enrichment. And that involves using very complicated, very precise instruments known as centrifuges that spin at an extremely high rate of speed to differentiate the weightier and the lighter isotopes, and that allows you to enrich. To get enrichment up to a civilian nuclear reactor, most of the world's reactors use slightly enriched uranium. You need about 3 to 5% U-235. To get to a research reactor, which is around 15 to 20% U-235, and to get to what we call weapons grade uranium for a nuclear bomb, you need over 90% U-235. According to the IEA, where the Iranians are is about 60% U-235. They have a stockpile of 60% U-235. That's not weapons grade material yet. And it's not like driving a car where, you're going 60 kilometers an hour, you just put on the gas and now you're at 90 kilometers an hour. It's much, much tougher than that. So it's not a linear approach. So that gives you a bit of an explanation around enrichment. And the problem with enrichment is you need it for civilian purposes. 3 to 5% for a reactor, 15 to 20% for a research reactor. But if you continue to enrich, you can also make a bomb out of it. So is it a civilian purpose or is it a military purpose? It depends on the degree of enrichment that you do. But if you have an independent enrichment capacity, you always have the option of going towards a nuclear weapon. And so that's why the enrichment facilities are the ones that were bombed by the Americans over the weekend. That is why the Iranians hid them in tunnels and underground to protect them, because there has been a history of nuclear facilities being bombed by adversaries.
Okay, so we in a recent episode played that disastrous interview, by the way, for Senator Ted Cruz with Tucker Carlson, who just went up one side of him and down the other, and ultimately portrayed Senator Cruz, or maybe exposed Senator Cruz, as somebody who didn't have a really good idea of what was going on, didn't know the population of Iran, had some pretty basic misunderstandings about what was going on. And I guess at the time, people started to wonder, is it the Americans striking here? Is it Israel striking with America's support? And if it was the United States, why would the United States insert itself into this right now, right? So what's the argument?
It's Israel first, followed by the Americans. And he's been concerned about nuclear weapons in the hands of other countries in the Middle East because they face an existential threat. And this is why Israel has an undeclared nuclear weapons program from the early 1970s. There is no doubt that Israel has the bomb, but unlike every other country that has the bomb, whether that's North Korea, the Americans, the Soviets, the Indians, the Pakistanis, they've never officially tested it to demonstrate it. So they've always kind of winked and nodded about whether they have a weapons program. But let's be clear, Israel has a nuclear weapon, has the bomb. And they have taken dramatic action over decades to prevent other Middle Eastern countries from acquiring the same thing. So in 1981, they blew up a nuclear reactor in Iraq. They did the same thing in 2007. Now, Iran is a much bigger country. It's further away. It does not border Iraq, but they have assassinated Iranian nuclear scientists. You may remember the Stuxnet computer virus that went around the world about 15, 20 years ago. That all began as a way of sabotaging the centrifuges in Iran. And they did successfully sabotage several of them as a result of that. And the Iranians just simply rebuilt it. So the Israelis, Netanyahu in particular, have always been concerned about the Iranian nuclear program. I've got video of Netanyahu back in the late 1990s saying Iran was 6 months away from a bomb. He went to the UN during the Obama years saying Iran is 6 months away from a bomb. When he went after Iranian scientists and some of their nuclear facilities in setup for the Americans, what did Netanyahu justify this as? Israel is 6 months away from a bomb. So the Israelis and Benjamin Netanyahu in particular have always wanted to take out Iranian nuclear facilities. But this is very complicated. It's very risky. It's very dangerous given the size and scope of Iran compared to Iraq and Syria, given that they're now underground. And every time that he's tried to get the Americans involved, the Americans have pushed back. They have constrained the Israelis, including during the first term of Donald Trump, including during Joe Biden after October 7th. So while the Israelis responded by October 7th, going after Gaza, going after Hezbollah, going after Hamas, they also were targeting Iran. Donald Trump in the second term is the first American president to work with the Israelis on this. Netanyahu, in my view, in my estimation, knows how to play Donald Trump. And I think that is what has occurred here.
You think Trump's getting played?
Oh, absolutely. Because as I said, the message from Netanyahu has been consistent over decades. He has been internally emboldened because of the aftermath of October 7th and Iran's sponsor of terrorists in Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. The Israelis have been very effective at getting rid of those Iranian proxies. Think about the pager attacks in Hezbollah. And now they wanted to go after the source. So the original attacks that Israel did against Iran, they did unilaterally. There is some suspicion about whether they were given American intelligence. What did the Americans know? What did they not know? But my sense is that was such a successful operation. This is hard to say. The president got personally jealous, and he likes to be a front runner, and he wanted to get involved. And so when he saw that Iranian airspace was now controlled by the Israelis, it made an American operation so much easier for them to do. And so, yes, it was a very risky operation. They were leaving from Missouri, long flights, very complicated procedures, using weapons they had not used before. But Israel made it so much easier for them to do. And that's why the Americans declared victory Sunday morning, said that they had obliterated Iran's nuclear capacity, which is not true. And it sets the stage. So absolutely, I think Netanyahu played Trump, and I think so did. I think Fox News played a role in that as well by highlighting the dramatic military successes of the Israelis. And Trump, being the front runner, always wants to win. He's never lost in his life. Wins every golf tournament. Wants to now win the war, and that's why he went from being a man of peace to a man of military, and now he's back to being the man of peace again. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize for what he did.
I want to, speaking of Fox News, I want to play just a quick clip from an interview with American Vice President J.D. Vance and Fox News host Brett Baier, and they're talking about basically whether or not it matters I mean, the clip speaks for itself. We'll get Duane to respond to it, but I want the audience to hear this for context. Here it is.
Has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the two mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think that's an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium,
sure, 60%.
The main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after.
Okay, so he goes on to describe the mission as a success and kind of lays it out. Do you buy it?
They have set the Iranians back. There's no doubt about that. The question is it 6 months? Is it a year? You need three things for that bomb, right? You need the enrichment capacity. You need those centrifuges. You know those technologies. Those have been damaged. We don't know how badly damaged they are. Whether the Iranians can rebuild them, they've rebuilt in the past. So that's element number one. Element number two, which he just brushes off, is they already have an existing supply of highly enriched uranium, but only at 60%, not at 90%. No one knows where that is. The IEA has no heightened radiation detectors since the attack. That suggests that the three bombing sites where they had did not, there was no nuclear material there. There was enrichment facilities, but not the actual fuel. And that was probably moved elsewhere. And then the third thing that they need is the intellectual capacity. And there's still a large number of Iranian nuclear scientists, thousands and thousands of them. So yes, the Israelis have been assassinating a few here and there. Some may have died in Natanz and Fordo and some of the other places, but they still have that capacity. So it's been a setback for the Iranians. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know at this stage if it's a year away or 2 years away. It surely is not forever.
Okay.
And that's the problem. And when he's going on about, well, there's lots of uranium in the world. Yes, there is lots of uranium in the world. The question is it highly enriched uranium? That is the question.
Okay, and let's not have it lost on us that we're talking about not if, but when Iran will have nukes, and we're talking about but potentially not if, but when. I know some people are saying this. I'm not trying to manifest itself. When World War III will begin. For a lot of people that are just paying attention to the news headlines, you'd have reason to believe that all hell is about to break loose. Where do you think this goes? The ceasefire lasted about as long as it took for the ink to dry on Trump's post.
Yeah, so Trump has said he wanted to negotiate an Iranian nuclear deal. Okay, and that would have prevented war. And then they're not at war. I don't know what they're calling this, but they say they're not at war. That he wanted a deal because he's the great deal maker, art of the deal and all of that. And then after the bombing raids, he said, well, now let's make a deal. Here's the problem. They had a deal. The Obama administration with the Chinese, the Russians, the Germans, the French, the British, and the Iranians, and the International Atomic Energy Agency reached a deal in 2015 called the Joint and Comprehensive Program of Action. It allowed Iran to develop enrichment for civilian purposes. There were inspections. There were sanctions that were dropped as a result. And between 2015 and 2018, there is no evidence whatsoever of Iran developing a nuclear bomb. We actually had inspectors on site monitoring this during that time period. Trump pulls out of the Iranian deal in 2018 called it the worst deal ever because it was done by Barack Obama, was fixated on these plane loads of cash that went into Iran, where he said they were being bribed. Well, no, that was simply money. That was Iranian money that had been seized by the Americans in 1979. They were returning it as part of the deal. Anyway, despite his own intelligence community, despite his own Defense Department, despite the IEA saying Iran was living up to the agreement, he pulled away. Well, since 2018, that's when we see the spike. So Iran has 60% highly enriched uranium. Why? Because Trump pulled out of this agreement in 2018. He was told that at the time by people smarter than me, but I included that. I said, this is a dramatic mistake. And he's now dealing with the outcomes of that. So if you're Iran, will you negotiate a new nuclear deal with someone who ripped up the last one, who just proceeded to bomb your own facilities? I don't know if Iran would agree to that. In fact, if I'm Iran, they now actually have a greater incentive to develop a nuclear bomb. Because once you develop a bomb, ask North Korea, you're a lot safer than if you're trying to get a bomb. So the safest place is not to do a bomb at all. The next safest is to have the bomb. It's the pursuit of the bomb that puts yourself in danger. So I don't think this is going to stop the Iranians at all. If anything, it's going to incentivize them even more.
Dr. Duane Bratt, political scientist, our guest. Let me ask you about this. Just looking at live reporting as we're recording this episode, BNN Bloomberg pointing out that oil prices are dropping sharply as we speak, but Wall Street nearing its record highs as stocks are rallying worldwide. Of course, a fear, I think, globally here as well, economically, is that this could squeeze the world's supply of oil, force gasoline prices up, et cetera. What could this mean for Alberta? What could this mean for Canada on that front?
Yeah, and we're seeing huge spikes up and down as people are trying to guess what's going to happen. And so I think if the ceasefire does hold, it's not the end of a war. But if the ceasefire does hold, you will see a drop in oil prices. If, on the other hand, you see more attacks, more heightened rhetoric, then I think you're going to see oil prices go back up again. And so that's all why Alberta is watching this so closely because of that effect.
Okay, let me. I want to turn the page here. By the way, we're getting some. Great comments here. I saw in here somebody said, the American president's getting played by Israel and Russia at the exact same time, which is probably accurate to a certain degree. I saw somebody else point out, who was it? I wanted to give them credit because it was a hilarious comment. But someone basically said it. The way he's talking about it, you'd think it was Jay. The way that Bratt's talking about this stuff, you'd think he's building a nuclear weapon in his own basement. We're not going to bring someone on the show that doesn't know what they're talking about. We know you know what you're talking about, so we appreciate it.
So let's be clear. My specialty is nuclear energy. Mm-hmm. It's not nuclear weapons. But as I said off the top, there is a connection between nuclear energy and nuclear weapons, and you have to understand how U-235 operates.
I appreciate it. You just gave us Nukes 101 in 5 minutes or less. Not everybody can do that. I want to turn our attention closer to home before we let you go. We always appreciate your time, but 3 by-elections settled in the province of Alberta overnight, basically, and I wouldn't say no winners, no losers. Obviously, there are, but no gains, no losses, right? The NDP hangs on to Edmonton, Strathcona, Edmonton, Ellerslie with the Naheed Nenshi finding his way into the legislature and Rachel Notley's former riding. Gurtej Singh Brar winning for the UCP, or rather the NDP in Edmonton, Ellerslie. The UCP winner is Tara Sawyer, who wins in Olds, Didsbury, Three Hills, conservative stronghold there, obviously. Bit of a storyline with that Alberta Republican Party, but generally speaking, your thoughts on the results?
So I'm going to refer to Paul Wells, the prominent political columnist, and his rules of Canadian politics. And number one rule is if there's a battle between the most exciting scenario and the most boring scenario always wins.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw last night. So we saw a status quo. There were speculation going in about, okay, Nenshi's going to win Strathcona, but it'll be 50 or 60%. He'll be down 20 points of what Rachel Notley did. Well, no, Nenshi actually did better than Rachel Notley. Or Ellerslie. UCP are going to win Ellerslie. They're in a lot of trouble. Look at the federal election. Look at what happened in the federal ridings there. The Conservatives won. No, the NDP held on. Fortress Edmonton remains an NDP stronghold. Down in Old Didsbury, oh my God, the UCP will win, but the separatists, they're going to get 30, 35%. What does this mean for the referendum and all of that? And no, the UCP won. The Alberta Republicans got 17%, and they finished third behind the NDP. So it is as boring a by-election as you could possibly have. And that's probably good news for Alberta, because this is a blow to the separatists. If you can't get more than 17% in Old Didsbury in a by-election as a way of sending a message to Carney and to Smith, I'm not saying this movement is dead, but they suffered a big blow last night, which is why they've spent the night spinning this to somehow say the Alberta Republicans aren't really separatists, and this wasn't a vote about separatism. This was a support in favor of Danielle Smith. But I think at the end of the day, this was a boring by-election. The NDP held their seats, the UCP held their seats, and now we wait for the next development in Alberta politics.
Yeah, obviously big, though. It is. I mean, we haven't even been able to accurately refer to Naheed Nenshi as leader of the official opposition because he hasn't been it. He hasn't had a seat. Yeah. It obviously changes the game a little bit from a strategic standpoint. On, I think
which
a lot of people,
a
lot of people are kind of going, "What's he been doing?"
To call the election,
huh? Why she
which
took
is
so
why
long?
They waited as long as possible to have the by-election in Strathcona. I mean, Rachel Notley resigned in December. It is the third week of June right now. They wanted Nenshi out of the legislature. They wanted him to twist in the wind. And so, yes, that will make a difference, but not the actual election. If you really thought that, oh my God, Nenshi's going to lose this seat, it wasn't going to happen. The question was when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And now things will get interesting come the fall.
Yeah, for people that haven't seen the results, and I'm referencing Dave Berta does a great job on his Substack if you want to check it out. Naheed Nenshi winning the Edmonton Strathcona riding with about 82% of the vote. That's 7,950 odd votes. The UCP candidate there, Darby Crouch, with about 1,300 votes and change for about 13% of the vote there. Edmonton Ellerslie, the NDP hangs on with 51-ish% of the vote, about 4,300 votes. The UCP candidate with about 38%, so tighter in Edmonton Ellerslie. I'm not surprised there, suburban riding. But Duane, the one that I am, I want to dig into this a little bit. The Old Didsbury Three Hills riding, Tara Sawyer, the UCP, with 61% of the vote. That's about 9,300 votes and change. Bev Taves, the NDP candidate, with about 20% of the vote. And then, as you mentioned, that Republican Party, Cameron Davies, about 2,700 votes, which is not nothing. About 18%, 17.6%. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying, you can't get a third of the UCP's vote. You couldn't even beat the NDP candidate in the riding, and kind of scoffing at it. I'm not trying to fuel momentum here with this, but I would say the fact that most people don't even have a hot clue what the Alberta Republican Party is all about. It strikes me, respectfully, that the Alberta Republican Party doesn't even really have much of an idea of what they're all about. But still, 17.6% of the vote is not nothing. It's
not nothing,
almost
but
1 in 5.
Polls leading up to this had suggested that support for separatism might be as high as 30%. Right. And you can't, but we also know that that's primarily rural. It has lower support in the city. So not every riding is going to be around 30%. Old Didsbury was considered a hot spot for separatism. It's the only riding that previously elected a separatist back in 1982. They put a lot of energy into this. They put their leader in this. They made separatism first and foremost. And you would think that of all the places, no one was thinking they were going to do well in Strathcona or Ellerslie. They were going to do well in Old Didsbury. And I don't think that 17% is particularly good. Is it worrisome that you've got 17% in a by-election where voter turnout is less than it is in a general election that support Alberta independence? That's not good, but compare that to had they pulled off 30 or 35%. We'd be having a much more different conversation this morning if that was the situation.
100%.
Right. So I don't think it was a very good day for the Alberta separatists.
All right. I'm hoping more dark days for Alberta separatists, quite frankly, because my Canada includes Alberta, and I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve with that one. Before we let you go, we always want to give the audience a chance to ask follow-ups whenever possible. Engage them, the most engaged audience in the country. And Erica in our live chat, powered by Park Power. Erica, thank you for your YouTube channel membership. Says, hang on, first Duane says there's no evidence that Iran was trying to develop a nuclear weapon. Then 1 minute later, he says he doesn't think that this will stop Iran from trying to develop a nuclear weapon. So which one is it? What would you say to Erica?
So, as I said, post 2018, I think we clearly saw a rise in pursuit of a nuclear weapon in Iran. Once Trump abrogated the JCPOA, that is definitely true. Iran has been developing nuclear energy since the 1970s. But from a weapons perspective, I think it was always an option, but a very small option until 2018. And that's where we see the dramatic increase.
Awesome, buddy. Thanks for taking the follow-up. Thanks for your availability and expertise. We always appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, you got it. That's Dr. Duane Bratt out of Mount Royal University in Calgary. Of course, you can follow him on X, and we're always curious to know what you make. Thanks to Erica for the live feedback, everybody else in the chat as well. But if there's something that didn't come up, something that this has prompted you to muse about, shoot us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Obviously, these conversations are ongoing, and we'll continue to seek expert opinions and insights from around the world. In a moment, we're going to talk to the three high-profile Albertans that are behind a new real estate development project in downtown Edmonton, in the capital city, that could involve you. It's a whole new way of doing it. And as we're talking more about gentrification, as we're talking more about redevelopment, as we're talking more about office conversions, more people working from home, downtown vacancies, downtown vibrancy, we thought that this was relevant and interesting. So we'll welcome those three, Don Iveson, Tegan Martin-Drysdale, Kyla Kazeil, to the program in just a quick second. First, I want to make sure that You Need a Barbecue is on your radar. If you follow me on social media, you saw me raving about these guys over the weekend. We finally got ourselves hooked up with a bit of an upgrade in the backyard. Long time coming, and I knew that when we were going to invest in our next grill, that I was going to leave it to Russell and Brian and the team at You Need a Barbecue. This is a local, family-owned barbecue store that stocks a deep variety, not only of barbecues and smokers to meet nearly every need, but also more than 200 spices and sauces and a deep selection of accessories and even fuel for your grill. They've got you covered across the board, and I guarantee that you're going to be happy with your experience. Their knowledge of what they're doing, their customer service, absolutely second to none. They also teach classes to help you up your barbecue game. You can pop into their Sherwood Park location, or, of course, you can visit them online at youneedabarbecue.com. I'm not going to talk to you about the unit you're going to use without telling you where you can pick up the protein, right? Friesen Brothers knows that barbecue season's here. And if you're seeking the ultimate Alberta barbecue experience, they've got to be your go-to. Friesen Brothers is all about Alberta meats, fresh beef and pork, chicken, even bison, all of it coming from right here in Alberta. Plus, at Friesen Brothers in-store bakery, you'll find freshly made buns, sourdough loaves, all the good stuff you need in that barbecue spread. And their produce, locally sourced as well. So when you're shopping at Friesen Brothers, you're supporting Alberta growers and makers. It's not just convenient. It's the one and only spot for a truly local barbecue shop-up. You can find out more at friesen.com/barbecue season. Our friends at California Closets, ready for you this summer. If you're looking to get your family on track, maybe you've done the spring cleaning, you're in the midst of that big purge, and you're looking at that space going, gosh, we could use an upgrade. Maybe it's a dream walk-in closet in your primary bedroom. Maybe it's the mudroom, the boot room, the laundry room that needs to get organized. If you can dream it, they can pull it off. California Closets can work with any space and any budget, and all of their installations, built right here in Alberta, are guaranteed for life. You can learn more about what they do. Take a look at some of their projects, how they're custom designed to fit your space and budget by visiting their website. That's also where you can request a free consultation at californiaclosets.ca. And a shout out to those of you that are, well, you're dragging your asses a little bit today. You didn't have a great sleep. You've been lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, asking big questions like, do I have enough to retire? Or should I take my CPP early? Or how do I protect my savings from a market crash? If these questions are keeping you awake at night, you need to check in with the team at North Road Investment Counsel. Marshall and Carrie and their team of experts can answer your biggest retirement and financial planning questions. Plus, they're independent fiduciaries. That means you're going to pay them a per-hour fee. You're not paying them commissions that they're making by selling you investment products. There's no fluff. There's no pressure. It's just clear advice and strategies that make sense. You can find them online at northroadic.com. Make sure you let them know that Real Talk sent you. This is kind of cool to welcome three well-known individuals, longtime movers and shakers in the city of Edmonton to the Real Talk studio, including, as we mentioned earlier, the first ever guest in the history of the show, former Edmonton Mayor Don Iveson.
That's
Can you
right.
believe
we launched this together?
We did launch this together.
I mean, it was your show, to be clear.
Well, but your exclusive announcement on Real Talk at that time that you would not be seeking re-election went a long way, I think, in helping us make a big splash in episode 1, and we're very, very close to episode 1,000, if you can believe it.
No kidding.
Yeah, we're just a few away. Johnny's keeping track of it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so we're inching there, but it's nice to have you here, along with two colleagues of yours and two people that I've known for a long time that have really made things happen in the Metro Edmonton region. Tegan Martin-Drysdale, the founding director of Homestead Co-working, the president of Red Brick Real Estate Services. It's nice to see you in here.
Yeah, it's nice to see you too.
It feels like, and it has been, I guess, an eternity since we first met on that Edmonton Next Gen committee. You remember
That's
that
right.
way back in the day?
Yes.
When we were both just kind of starting off in our careers, but I think both feeling something about making big contributions to this city.
Yes. Yeah. No, that was a very exciting time for Edmonton, and
It's been amazing to watch you and what you've built since then. We're going to get into the details in just a quick second, but why don't we welcome the third member of our panel today, and Kyla Kazeil. Everybody, I think, knows you as an entrepreneur and, of course, co-owner of 4 award-winning businesses. As soon as I say them, people are going to go, oh my gosh, the Bamboo Ballroom, the Common, Foos Repair Shop, and Dolly's Cocktails. You've got a combined annual revenue closing in on $6 million. You've got more than 150 employees. I remember when you were just getting started. Does it blow your mind sometimes?
Oh, I feel like I'm still just getting started. So
Is that right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it blows my mind every day.
That's the attitude of a true entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to hear a little bit more. We invited you all to join us and grab a coffee, grab a water, and sort of tell us this story of how the three of you came to be working together. This Homestead Investment Co-operative. This is basically, as I understand it, the reinvention of a historic building in Edmonton's downtown, but an opportunity for regular folks to get involved.
Yeah, so about 4 years ago, actually, after I'd announced with you that I wasn't going to run again, Tegan and I sat down, and I'd been through her co-working space over at the Alberta Block, which is in the 105th Street, between 105th and 106th Street on the north side of Jasper Avenue. It's the old CKUA building. If you drive down Jasper Avenue, you'd see those ghost murals that are still up on there.
Yeah.
And Tegan asked me the question, said, what do you think it would take to turn this into a community ownership model? And I said, I don't know, that's an interesting question. It kind of brings community economic development, it brings investment, it brings real estate, it brings downtown revitalization together. So I had some time on my hands, and she said, well, why don't you come help me figure it out? And I said, what's the catch? And she said, well, just hang out in the building and meet some of the other entrepreneurs that are in there, trade stories, mentor if you like, and here's a desk while we figure out this question of how to turn this building into a community ownership model. Powered by co-working. And so we spent a couple of years sort of hammering away at this, looking at different models for how to make this work. And co-working's an interesting business. Tegan started Homestead Co-working actually in the same building that the Common's in, sort of more than a decade ago, and she can tell the story. But what I liked about it was when she started her real estate practice, instead of just opening an office for herself, this being the way Tegan operates, she said, let's create a co-working space and crowd in the collaborators in the kind of innovative real estate practice that she was building at the time. And so that became Homestead Co-working Space. you could sell shares in a co-working space, but at the end of the day, the asset is just a set of leases, right? There's a long-term lease for the space, and there's short-term leases for the tenants. And that's a business, but there's not a huge asset base behind it. But if you buy the building that the co-working space is located in, now you've got a serious, durable, long-term asset. And sort of the magic of this model is that you have a mix of long-term tenants in the building who are paying reliable, secure rents, providing good income to pay down the mortgage and pay back investors. And you've got short-term folks coming through who become those future long-term tenants as we all work together to support their growth. So it has features of almost startup Edmonton to the extent that there's a community of entrepreneurs, not limited to tech. And there's not-for-profit organizations. Anyone who needs space is welcome in the building. And so we did a bunch of work to put together the offering memorandum, structure an investment co-op, and create a vehicle where people who don't have to be tenants in the building would have a pathway to fractional ownership of something that most of us couldn't afford to buy into on our own.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that could call themselves or refer to themselves as owner of downtown commercial real estate, and that might appeal to some people. Taken at the same time, on the logistics front, me with no idea what I'm talking about looks at something like this. Like, I can understand how something like this might be great. Not technically a crowdfunding, but one way to acquire commercial real estate downtown. But at the second, on the counterpoint, you sort of think, gosh, too many cooks in the kitchen. It sounds like it could be a big headache. What was the draw to you, the appeal to you?
So I've been looking at community-based development and investing my whole career. So it's something that I'm very passionate about. And it was about maybe 10 to 12 years ago that I started looking at the Sangudo community investment model that occurred there in that small town. They revitalized a business that was going to get shut down. Workers were going to lose their job. The community banded together and invested in that business, and it's thriving today. It's one of the best meat processing plants in the province, actually. And so that to me was a success story of like how community dollars and impact investing can come together in your local community to really build momentum and support around a business. And then I started to think, well, what about if this could be applied to a real estate model? And there's been examples of like crowdfunding platforms where you can invest but that doesn't provide, and what the cooperative model does, is democratized investing. So yes, every member has a vote and has a say in the future of their investment. And the reason why I like that model is because I know that a project like this is going to attract innovators, builders, creators, people that get stuff done. Like those Albertans that I know and I've seen like build incredible things in this province. And so when you get a group of those types of people in a room and they're invested in something together, no matter what gets thrown at us, no matter what comes our way, I know that we will be able to solve those problems collectively as a group. And I've seen that community action take place just even in the co-working side when an entrepreneur says, okay, I'm going to launch this product or I'm going to do this, and we all come around and we give our advice and we support them through it. Like they're much stronger and better for it. So the resiliency that you get from that kind of investment, the local impact that you get from that kind of investment, I think outweighs any of those fears that I have anyways around the democratized piece of it.
Yeah, so you obviously don't have to be an investor to be a tenant. You don't have to be a tenant to be an investor. I'll let people know they can check out homesteadcowork.ca. Also, full disclosure, I'm not an investor. I'm just curious. I'm just asking. Maybe I will be someday. I don't know. Maybe you'll all bring me on board
we got
today.
half an hour to convince
maybe you'll convince me. This is in real time. This can be a case study on whether or not it works. And you've also got an open house coming up in the next 24 hours or so. We'll put all the links into the show notes on the podcast and on YouTube. But Kyla, you're a board member and you're also a tenant. If I know anything about you, I know there's a lot of strategy, like location. Every one of your businesses is in a smart location. What was it that sold you on Alberta Block and the bigger project?
So it was Tegan that sold me. We had just finished absolutely getting our asses kicked from COVID, and it was kind of at that time she came and she had a vacancy in the main floor space for the restaurant, and she said, okay, we have this space. We've been thinking about the common. We'd like to see if you guys would like to come in And coincidentally, because Homestead kind of did start in the common building, I feel like we have this connection that's kind of almost like meant to be. But when she said it, I was like, I don't know. Like, we've just gone through the ringer. Like, we're on the verge of, you know, being able to hold it together. But FOOS was doing so well in the space that it was in. And I felt like we could make the move. And we were kind of going back and forth, and I was thinking about it. And then she talked about the co-op, and I was like, okay, if there's a chance that maybe after like just being through the ringer so hard that we could actually get invested into a building that we're paying rent in, I'm in. And so we made the decision to move FOOS over there, which was actually a great decision. And we were riding on a pretty big high. Like, we were had been top new restaurant in Edmonton, and we were top one of the best new restaurants in Canada. And so we made the decision to move it and scale. Like, the space is about 8 times bigger than our current space. So it was a big risk and a big jump, but the opportunity to be involved in the investment co-op was a really defining decision for us to move into there.
Huh. Is this something that you think could be scaled? I mean, I would imagine you guys probably have like the short-term project, which is this, and then a much bigger vision. Am I right about that?
Well, I make no small plans, right? So I think there are 2 scaling opportunities for this. One that crosses over into some of the other work I do. I think this model can actually work for housing. Now, to be really clear, that's not what we're proposing with this. This is a commercial real estate focused investment cooperative. And at this point, we're pitching raising capital to buy one building in particular. But I see, and the board I think agrees, the Alberta block as the cornerstone in a portfolio of buildings across the province that have a mix of stable long-term member tenant investors who have the same epiphany that Kyla just shared, to say, you know, I could never own my own building as a small business, but I'd rather pay rent to myself. And it's not rent to own, it's own so you can collect rent, right? And do so not just from your own business, but all of the other folks whose success you're now co-invested in your community. And then if there's also co-working space in the flex, so this is one of the issues, and you raised it in the introduction. I mean, there is more vacancy out there. There's working arrangements are changing. Things are more fluid. And so what I like about this model is that each building we acquire, starting with Alberta Block, can have a mix that can flex over time of long-term tenants and short-term co-working space. And having that co-working space in the building also helps the long-term tenants because they can access the boardroom. They can get flex space for their employees if they're surging on a project. And then you have a diversification of revenue streams, some more lucrative short-term rents and some more stable long-term rents. So that's a de-risking strategy for any building. But I see Alberta Block as a cornerstone of a portfolio of ideally dozens of buildings that we raise millions of dollars of community capital to buy, and that cumulatively becomes a portfolio and a network of investors and a set of spaces that any one of us can go to in Grand Prairie or in Calgary or in Red Deer and have not just a place to plug in your laptop, but a community of people who care about each other's success, who are co-invested together.
Okay, so if somebody like chooses to investigate, and again, I never give investment advice. I'm not telling you. We're figuring out about a project. I just want to be super clear about that. And by the way, real talk, they're not paying us for this either. I'm just curious. No, but people want to know that, right? Like, am I getting 10 grand for having you on? No, I'm not. Unless you guys want to shoot me some shares, which then I'll disclose.
If we could get you as enthusiastic about Homestead Investment Co-op as the Friesen Brothers Barbecue,
there you go.
I'm off to Friesen's after this.
I'll put you in touch with our sales guy. But so like, just so we're clear, you're looking to raise, and it's a bit of a big number, Tegan. I know you can explain it to. You're looking to raise between basically $4.6 and $9 million, right, to purchase the Alberta Block building. You got to cover your closing costs. Obviously, you need a reserve fund kind of thing. Yep. Minimum investment 10 grand. People can hold the shares in their RSPs or their TFSAs, and then I guess people get into the small print from there. Yep. But if somebody invests in this, they're investing in buying Alberta Block. They're not investing in the bigger picture, right? I'm not getting a chunk of the company.
No, that's correct. They're buying the real estate, the building itself, and future acquisitions, because they'll have a vote, they'll have a say in those future acquisitions and be able to opt in or opt out
Yeah.
when we're buying future buildings. So
I'm not trying to be a pessimist. This just sounds like such a nightmare to me. I know that at a leadership level, you got to be decisive and you got to be able to make calls. And so how are you planning? Because right now, and I don't think necessarily this is a good thing. Actually, I really feel for people that are downtown struggling right now because the values, I mean, you look at what buildings are selling for right now. It's a great opportunity for buyers, but that comes at a cost. So I would imagine with the ambition that I'm picking up around this table, you guys are going to have a lot of opportunities. And once you get this one out of the way and figured out, then the world's your oyster. So ultimately, it'll be you making the call, or how's it all going to play out?
Well, governance in this is, governance is a passion of mine, right? So to be really clear, the way this works is it's important to have board leadership that can develop strategy and prepare proposals and bring coherent options and recommendations to the general meetings of the membership. So you'd call a general meeting if you have a big strategic decision, like buying a building or selling a building from the portfolio. But you would have the board prepare that and work with consultants and other experts and committees of interested members to develop that. So that's the democratic portion. That doesn't have to be messy. It can be very well organized and executed. It'll have to be for this to work. And it also depends on there being a culture of trust and collaboration, which is sort of primed by the fact that, don't opt into this if you don't want to work with 100 other people to do something big. But so this isn't for everybody, and it's not a pump and dump, get rich quick real estate flip scheme. It's a long-term building community assets together patiently. There's a 5-year minimum hold on this. So you put your money in, and the idea is to let it run and let it work. So the opportunities for the kind of chaos that could erupt with direct democracy, I think can be best managed by establishing that culture very intentionally, the sort of self-selection bias of people opting into the model, and understanding that we're creating long-term value together, and then making those decisions very intentionally and with good advice.
Okay, so sorry to state the obvious and talk to you about the industry in which you are an expert and not me, but you talked to us about your perspective, or let's say like the last 10 years on this, and this is something you've always wanted to do. You've been paying attention to the models. How interesting to see like what commercial real estate values have done over those 10 years, right? How much does the market reality influence your perspective on it? Or I mean, if I know anything about people building really big successful entities, they've got the ability to pivot in the short term, but you've always got a long-term plan, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that, post-COVID, this is a great opportunity to invest in downtown Edmonton. We're seeing a lot of investment from different levels of government around us. We've got the warehouse park. We're seeing vacancies decrease in downtown Edmonton. Cap rates go down, interest rates go down. So the timing, I think, is right for this project. The opportunity to do value add to the building is there. We have a rooftop patio that we can develop in the future to add more revenues, and we've talked with Kyla's team about what that could look like as an operator. And I don't, to have a rooftop patio like that on Jasper Ave will be a very unique proposition. So I've been in the conventional real estate world for over 25 years, and I've seen all the conventional ways of doing business, and they work and they work very well. But what I also have seen are the barriers that are created to entry into that business, especially on the commercial side and commercial investment in downtown cities. So that's the piece where I'm very passionate about removing those barriers and open up the possibilities to people that want to invest in their community, in their downtown core, and be a part of growing their real estate investment portfolio.
It's been, we talk to a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, people that live and work downtown, and it's kind of like a bit of a mixed bag right now, I think, with how everybody's feeling. There is optimism, and I think, it's maybe not unique to Alberta, but we celebrate that spirit in Alberta, and Kyla, you're one of them. And you've dumped a bunch of cash and a lot of passion, blood, sweat, and tears, I'm sure, over the years into building these successful businesses, and we'll have no idea what happens behind the scenes. scenes. We just assume they're always successful. I assume Foos is always packed, but I know that there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then on the flip side, people are saying, gosh, you know, and I hate to sort of manifest it myself or perpetuate the notion, but downtown's really struggling, and there's either the reality or the perception of a reality around safety. The streets, you know, maybe aside from Stanley Cup finals, are not as packed as we'd like to see. So when I hear someone like Tegan say, I think this is a great opportunity to invest in Edmonton's downtown, I just want to inherently cheer for it. I mean, we've invested in Edmonton's downtown with our studio. Can I get you to comment on that? Just the bigger picture of foot traffic and downtown vibrancy and investment, and maybe some of the perceived hurdles that are standing in the way of more and more people coming and taking their business or coming to live downtown?
Well, I don't think that downtown is going to reach its full potential until people do continue to invest in it, right? Because the more people are out downtown, the more people are walking, they're out at night, they're working during the day, like the community will become safer. And so having that density, having people just out and about, even you can see it on our block. It's like very concentrated. There's a lot more restaurants and things happening at night. And that block of Jasper Ave it's a lot safer. There's just a lot of people out and they're just, you know, eating and drinking and being social. And it's not like when you go somewhere and it's a little bit more remote, all of a sudden you don't feel as safe. So I think to bring that, you know, more people to the downtown core, you know, and we're lucky. There's people investing in downtown. I mean, you look at Bar Trove that's opening, like that's so lucky for the city. There's people that are really putting their dollars into Edmonton, and I feel like we're not going anywhere. We've lived here all of our lives, and so to kind of make an investment into downtown it's only going to benefit the city.
The Bar Trove opening is even bigger, obviously, because it's giving everybody reason to believe that Connor McDavid is going to extend his contract with the Oilers based on the fact that his wife is opening one of the most beautiful new spaces we've seen in a long time. Emily, by the way, is in our live chat, powered by Park Power. She says, it's great to see Don on here. She says, the city's been an absolute mess since he left. You've been doing, would you like to comment on that, Don? Oh, no, that's strange.
Well, I will say this in fairness to anybody in public service at any level right now. I mean, I think I got out just in time. It's become really, really difficult to lead in cities on this continent particularly. I keep in touch with a number of former mayors and folks who are still in office. And, you know, as Edmontonians, we're the first to give ourselves a hard time and internalize the things that don't feel like they're going well in our downtown, for example. But I can assure you, and I spend about, you know, way more time on the road because no one's a prophet in their own village. So I got to leave town to make money these days for the most part, a lot of the things that I do. So I spend a lot of time in Canada's other big cities, and they're all struggling with the same things. And so this narrative that some folks are grinding that Edmonton did this to itself, like I am so sick and tired of that. And I was frustrated by that when I was mayor, but I've only seen it get worse. And I think it's social media, it's uncertainty, it's post-COVID, you know, traumatic stress. I don't really blame anyone for it, but we got to get over it, right? And this one project isn't going to, you know, single-handedly turn the dial on confidence in our city. But the reason I'm a part of this is because I have maintained confidence in our city since I was a city councillor, as mayor, and since. And it's been really, really rough. The circumstances that the current city council and mayor have had to deal with, that business owners downtown have had to deal with, that social service agencies supporting vulnerable people have had to deal with. But that situation is not unique. Every large North American city has headwinds, and some of them are their own making, but a lot of it's structural. And internalizing it as blame and trying to pin it on a given set of elected officials at the time, I think that's not fair. I think societally, we're not doing a great job of dealing with the housing crisis, supporting unhoused people. I mean, those are the structural things that contribute to social disorder that we need to work on. It's one of the reasons I co-chair the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness and serve as chair of the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. So I'm still working on the upstream prevention strategies for the issues that people are complaining about today. And I'll never forget one of the elders who came and testified at an executive committee meeting when we were looking at our housing policies a few years ago. He said, housing is the best medicine for my people. Housing is the best medicine for my people. So we need to solve for housing, to solve for folks who are unhoused and for the social disorder conditions. And that's why we're having big infill fights still, is how do we create enough housing? Like, to me, all this stuff is hard, but we have made tremendous progress as a community when we're focused on doing the right thing and making, improving outcomes for everybody. When we turn on ourselves and start to blame ourselves or lose confidence or try to pin it on one person, that's when we're not focused on the solutions. We're focused on scoring points. So I don't know, we're going into an election. I hope necessarily there'll be some of that, but I hope we can rise above that as a community, because it's nobody's fault that we're in this situation. Every other big city is dealing with more or less the same things. How we come through it as a community working together, things like this, all kinds of other initiatives that people are bringing to bear, that's how you turn the corner on it.
Will you be endorsing anyone for mayor, by the way?
No, I think it's really important for former mayors to sort of be above the fray on this thing. And then particularly given my role with CMHC, I have to be sort of very strongly nonpartisan at all levels, including local. So.
Okay, I have a couple other election-related questions. I'll save them for the end, and you guys could just sit here. We'll just grab our popcorn and let Don sit in the hot seat for a second.
We'll find our ways to dodge them.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting to hear him talk about it. And I want to pick your brain on this. He says that this model, what you're building here, what you've created, this opportunity, could be applied to housing as well. And if you look, honestly, aside from probably Donald Trump, I would say that housing and affordability was probably the number one election issue for most Canadians, which is to say it was a distant second, but still very relevant. Can the same principles apply? Can the same approach apply, whether you're talking about co-working spaces in historic downtown buildings or housing builds?
Oh, absolutely. And my first introduction to cooperatives was through housing. We have a number of cooperative housing projects already in the city, but historically, the way that I was introduced to it would be you would buy into it if you were going to live there.
Right.
Whereas this model is more allowing investment from other areas and other people that don't live in the building itself, but to buy the building and then rent it out to people that maybe have invested in the building too, or maybe not. So yes, I definitely think that this model can apply to housing, and it is being applied to housing, especially in Eastern Canada. So,
you could have, you could raise this $9 million, $10,000 at a time, which would, I don't know if it would take forever, but that's a big, or you could have someone come in with $9 million, right? Either scenario would work. Or no, is there a cap?
There's a cap. So 10% of the total value is your maximum investment.
And why is that? You don't want to have someone with too much of a say?
Yes, it's to really keep true to that democratized model. And so because for people that have $9 million that want to buy all of it, there's many other real estate models that are much simpler.
They'll just
for
go
them
buy the building.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So, but you've already negotiated the sale. It's already happened, right? Someone's not going to swoop in right now. It's already it's already done.
Yes, we already have it papered.
Just to make sure. I'm like, gosh, we're kind of blowing the lid off this secret right now. Everyone's going to know. So, Kyla, potential-wise, when we talk about the application of this and what this could look like in future, how it might change the game for a lot of people, not just from a workspace approach, but maybe from an investment approach for you, as an entrepreneur, as a board member, all things considered. What resonates with you most strongly about Homestead's potential?
Well, for us, and being a tenant in the building, it just gives us hope because food is hot and it's great and it's very popular and it's busy. But the reality of restaurants is you don't really make a lot of money and it's very hard to make profit. And so when you're working really hard to make these rents and pay these rents, and you know that there's a chance that you could actually be investing in your own little piece of something, that means a lot. And anybody that knows anybody that owns a restaurant or a bar, it's a grind. It's a real grind, and it's very hard to get ahead in a way that you would ever be able to buy real estate. And for us, we're self-made. We didn't inherit money. We didn't get a big somebody that gave us a bunch to get open and stuff. So we've just been grinding for common 16 years.
Well, this is why I kind of introduced the three of you like I did today, because I want people to know that this sounds creepy. I've been watching you for the last but in all seriousness, all four of us, we've kind of built our careers side by side over the last 20 years in this city, with many other people around us. But it's unbelievable to see as people hit their stride in middle age, but as we hit our stride and see all this happen. But with every new like restaurant opening for you, for example, you go, gosh, it's amazing. But like I remember I walk into Foos with these like incredible lanterns, and I mean I pump your tires on just because I love what you're doing there, but also because I know that like you take these huge risks. Can you articulate? We're actually going to be talking tomorrow to some of the winners of the Alberta Business Awards of Distinction. We're going to talk all about like strikes and gutters and wins and losses and some of these big challenges. But people are going to hear you say, like, there's not a ton of money in restaurants. I hear this all the time. When they talk about, like, celebrities and athletes that invest in restaurants. I mean, no disrespect, but they're always like, they're pissing away their money. Like, it's just a bad investment. So help me understand why someone would sink $1 million into opening a new restaurant knowing that the profit margins are, like, razor thin.
Like, under 10% if you're doing a good job.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like 6%, right? People say.
Yeah. So, and then because my original business is a clothing store, which is even harder. So,
is that right?
I might be dumb.
No, there's no way that you are, because you have this cult following, and I know people like target your places, and also like it's I'm sitting here just like promoting you, but it's because like you understand aesthetic and you understand vibe, and you've never cut corners on your menus, and your cocktail programs have always been strong, and my wife adores your clothing shop and all those types of things. But like you have to you can never be complacent, right? And at the same time, always understand that it sort of probably feels like the pressure's breathing down on your neck a little bit.
Oh, if you have a couple of bad months and you can be done. Like, it's not like
even still for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even now, even my store's turning 20 years old in July.
Congratulations.
Thank
Just
you.
off White Avenue.
Yeah.
Bamboo Ballroom.
So that's been a really big milestone to try to hit. But I mean, that's the thing. You're only a couple months away when you are in these types of businesses. And so, having a little bit more of investment for us is very attractive. And, we have all these businesses. And so there's always a perception. People look at people and they feel like, success it can be measured differently. I feel like we've built a lot of community. We have great staff. We have lots of retention. We're giving people, really nice places to work that are safe. And I think we're changing a lot of things. We're trying to make Edmonton a better place. If we just wanted to make money, we wouldn't be in these businesses.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair way to put it, right?
Well, and I just want to say, like, Kyla's team, they create magic in the business. That's why they're such a cult following. So when you go into their places, it's like that transports you. You're still in Edmonton, and you're still, in the same physical place, but mentally and I guess kind of that soul food piece, like it transports you to another place, and you forget your stresses and your worries, and you just focus on the good food and the good music and the good people. And I've seen her team literally create magic and transform a space. And that's why when I was, looking at who do I want in this building, who do I want in this space, the only name I had on that list was Kyla.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Like they're the best operators that I've ever seen in this city. And then, Kyla and I, behind the scenes, like I see how much work goes into what they do every single day. And you think, well, once we open, then, but it just gets the hardness of it just continues, because there's just the daily struggles of operating a business and the ups and downs, employees calling in sick. And so, she's in the kitchen helping prep for the night. So,
sure.
And as
and
moms,
a mom too, by the way.
As moms, we're, so we've really bonded through this, because we're building a community to support each other. And we talk about, the struggles and the ups and downs and the wins and the awards and everything. But that's what you need now more than ever, is community to get through.
Yeah, I love it. I'm taking a look here at the recent feature in Edify. This is what I think you won. Was it Best New Restaurant or just, Best New, right?
We've been
Wasn't
Best
it?
New and Best Overall for
Best
the last
New and
2
Best
years
Overall.
in a row.
That's a bit of a hot streak. People can check out edifyedmonton.com if they want to read the feature on Foos Repair Shop. I just have to ask you as well, like Dolly's Cocktails. I want to maybe I'll show your Instagram here, but this was like the Pink Palace, and anybody that's been there knows. Did this whole thing with Pink Pony Club and the Oilers run? I mean, it was like, is your place like just like busier than ever? Or did the cup run not really, like, you're not like packed with hockey fans in there, are you?
No,
or is everybody a hockey fan this time of year?
No, but I feel like we played the Oilers games and stuff, and I feel like it was maybe played to a different demographic, that maybe females in that space or queer people in that space might want to come and watch hockey in a different place, right? And I mean, part of when we moved Foos, a great opportunity that we had that space to create Dolly's too, right? So it's, again, investing in your community, taking a chance, and then, doing more so that there can be more opportunities for other things to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Don, you've been doing a ton of your work since you left elected office on like climate and community resilience. Is there an angle there on this? I mean, is it particularly on the climate front? Do you see one?
Well, I think it's important to note that this building got a very deep retrofit. So notwithstanding that it's, I think 100-year-old building, give or take, it was the first location of Alberta Treasury Branch. It was CKUA for many years. But once CKUA moved out to their new space further down Jasper Avenue in the Alberta Hotel, the building got, I think, a $7 million renovation almost a decade ago. And so it's been hardened against climate challenges, and it's been massively improved from an energy efficiency standpoint. So it's insulation, new windows, the boilers are new, and so from a building retrofit standpoint, the building's been future-proofed, and the efficiency really improves the margins. So that's one of the ways we can produce at least a 6% return on cash flow in this building, is because it's so efficient to operate, and that savings really passed on to the tenants because it's a net rent situation, but they're paying less for energy because the building was invested in. So from a climate perspective, from an energy perspective, it's a great building. I hope as we build a portfolio that we'll look to make sure we're, guarding against risks like floodplains, and making sure that buildings we acquire either have been improved and fortified and made more efficient. Because some of the work that I do with cooperators insurance around climate investing and community resilience has made me really keenly aware, just like the floods and the fires in Alberta and BC over the last 15 years made me keenly aware that things are changing. And so you have to make sure that your assets are equal to those issues that are coming up. And this building is, and it's one of the sort of selling features of it.
We've got just kind of some interesting back and forth in the live chat. I try to get to it as much as I can. We get great questions, good debate in there. Wise Kyle is asking a very fair question. What's the projected ROI each year? What's the return on investment? And then Paul chimes in and says, impact investing is as much about the community building as the return, if not more. Give us your thoughts on that.
So the return is projected at 6% year-over-year return, not including any appreciation in the value of the asset. So that's what we're projecting. We have offering memorandum, cash flow statements, and projections. So what we've created is a online investor portal where once people sign up, they can go in and see all of the due diligence documents and the building condition reports and the appraisal, and everything's in there to make an informed decision, as well as what we're projecting forward. And for myself, I agree 100% with that statement about impact investing. For me, the community that I'm meeting through this project and this cooperative that we've built is astounding. Like we attend the meetings, and I am so impressed with the people that have been attracted to this project. It's exactly what I envisioned it would be when we were spending those few years trying to figure out what is the model and how would we do this. I envisioned, what type of people would be interested in this project. And so we've had open houses and we've had socials at FOOS, and we're having another one this Wednesday at 4:30 to 7 for anyone interested.
No, pump it. Is that at FOOS as well?
Yeah, so we start at up on the co-working space at 4:30, and we do tours of the building, and then after we wrap, we go down to FOOS, and Kyla is a wonderful host, and we get to enjoy their food.
So people can just pop into that? You don't have to RSVP or anything?
We do have an Eventbrite link to RSVP, but also you can just pop in as well. You can.
Okay, we'll punch that Eventbrite link into the show notes so people can sign up if they're interested. But so what kind of, I guess maybe maybe you might tell me the question's too broad, but what sort of investor is it attracting? Like what, can you think of a few kind of anecdotes?
Really smart investors, people that are very educated in investing, and people that are very big Edmonton boosters, Alberta boosters, people that are just getting into commercial investing, and they see this as an opportunity to tap into a network that knows what they're doing and they can learn from. Very passionate investors, when we have our events, people don't want to leave. That's the one thing I said to another board member at our last one is like every time we have one and it ends, people aren't just flooding out the door. They're sticking around, they're exchanging business cards, they're getting to know each other, and those connections are already starting to happen. And that's what I'm most excited about is seeing how this community comes together and how businesses get built through this process or businesses get enhanced through this process.
Yeah.
Can I just build on that?
Yeah, of course.
So the average investment so far for the first million or so that we've raised is about 22,000. So interestingly, people are not saying, okay, I only have 10. And that's partly because folks have the opportunity, and you mentioned it earlier, but it's worth sort of double clicking on the fact that we've worked with Common Good Capital to make this RSP and TFSA eligible. So if you got $100K in your RSP and some of it's invested in the States right now and you don't feel good about that, you've now got an opportunity to repatriate capital. So that's been one of the other things that people saying, you know what, there is a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. There's so much upheaval in the economy and in the trade dynamics. I don't know what's going to happen with the tax treaty with the United States. So you know what, I'm just going to sell those Google shares or whatever. I'm done with the Broligarchs and I'm going to take some of that money and plant it at home. But you don't have to come up with new money. You can move it around within your existing RSP or TFSA portfolio. So that's what I did is I sold some stuff in my RSP that I wasn't happy with and transferred it in to put $50K into this building. And so people have that option. It's very seamless through the investor portal. It's all automated. We worked with DealPoint out of Calgary to make the investor experience all digitized. It's sort of like super DocuSign. You go through everything, including triggering a transfer from any RRSP at any bank that you'd be dealing with or credit union or other entity into the Common Good Capital RSP and TFSAs. And from there, you can also buy into other co-ops and things like this around the country. And I'll just say one other thing about sort of the investors. There's a story of a similar project, smaller scale, but it was a community ownership play on it. I think it was a strip mall somewhere in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver that had a Starbucks in it. And the folks who owned it and their friends would drive across town. I'm not recommending this from a transportation standpoint, but they would drive across town to go to their Starbucks, right? Just think about what it would be like to bring your friends to Foos from out of town and be like, yeah, this is the best restaurant in Edmonton. Also, I own a bit of the building. No big deal.
You know, there's going to be people that are saying they're your landlord, Kyla. They're going to want to get past the line. They want VIP.
I'll give it to them.
You'll give it to them. Yeah, that's great. I want to get to more comments here because, I mean, people are I think, you know, chiming in ways that are really good. I mean, so Paul, on a Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider, says if you're interested in high financial ROI, this may not be for you, but if you want to invest in renewing downtown, you can take a close look. I saw somebody else that made a really great comment about the sort of social return on investment or social ROI or the impact of that, which I think goes a long way as well. Kenzie, a little bit critical, says, I must have missed how this project improves the community. What would you say to Kenzie?
So since we've been on 105th, we call it the Block 105, you know, it started with Red Star Pub. They bought the building, Sal and his partners, and started to bring in some little micro businesses and lunch places there. And then we moved into the Alberta block. And what comes with the co-working piece and the community investment piece is energy. So you really bring energy into a concentrated area on a block. And since then, since, you know, there's the Red Star building and now our building, you know, that gets foot traffic on the street and people going around at lunchtime and lots of meetings and cafes and stuff. At one point we had 5 coffee shops on our block. It's a very interesting intersection between the Ledge Grounds and the City Hall, and you see a lot of meetings happening on our block. But it's really the energy that we bring, and then through the mentorship pieces and the community building aspect of the co-working space where we're helping small businesses grow, and they're also doing their impact, social impact through their services and their products. We really do see a positive impact to the community.
Huh. Very cool. By the way, Kenzie followed up and she said, I wasn't being critical. I just didn't hear. Okay, well, we promise fair follow-ups as well. Before we thank you all for your time, I have to ask you this. Most people probably don't have the CRL on their radar, the community revitalization levy, right?
Yeah.
And our friends at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, I know, have been talking about this along with the Downtown Business Association, other stakeholders. As the CRL is essentially, correct me if I'm wrong on the details, but it's like up for renewal, or they're looking for an extension of this. And the Edmonton Chamber's Heather Thompson saying just the other day, over the past 10 years, that CRL, which is basically tied to the Arena deal, right, has helped drive over $5 billion in downtown investment. I've also seen critics of it. I saw my buddy Cole, who's one of the owners at Bent Stick Brewing. He was talking about how there's stakeholders, partners that are paying into the CRL that don't necessarily see the benefits of it. As a matter of fact, they're seeing benefits to parties that actively work against their entrepreneurial ventures. I would think of hospitality operators downtown. Your thoughts as a former mayor and Edmontonian on the future of the CRL that's going before council?
I've seen the headlines go by, but I don't actually have to read the reports anymore, so I wouldn't want to contribute to any misinformation to the debate. What I can say about the CRL at a high level is that it not only helped build some of the public realm around the arena, but it actually paid for a whole bunch of other really boring things like sewer upgrades that support all kinds of development downtown. And conditions for business and investment. It's also paying for the downtown park close to Homestead.
Is that the Beaver Hill Park?
No, it's the park that's going in behind the BPs.
Oh yeah.
Between 6th and 7th, and so the CRL actually paid for a lot of things besides the arena, which gets a lot of the attention. And it was going really, really well until the pandemic disrupted building values. So a lot of cities that have had as I mentioned, these are not issues unique to Edmonton. The pandemic torqued real estate values in a lot of places. And so because the CRL sort of carves the upside on the gain in new property values, to help pay for the things that catalyzed that new investment. If those asset values take a haircut, which a lot of them did during the pandemic, that just means you have to spread out the recovery period. So it's Calgary's had to do the same thing on theirs, and I think a lot of cities that have relied on so-called tax increment financing have had to square with this. So I'm not surprised. Let's put it that way. That there's a question about needing to extend essentially the self-liquidating payback period for all the things that were already bought. That's without getting into any discussion of what else might still be bought through the CRL.
All right, fair enough. Thanks for taking the question. I didn't give you the heads up I was going to ask you, but I just know it's in front of council this week.
I haven't talked about CRLs in decades.
And quite frankly, that stuff bores me to tears, but it's important. It's significant, obviously. And if we're talking about downtown revitalization, reinvention, et cetera, investment, then obviously I wanted to touch on it. I'm just like, you look like you have something else you want to say.
Yeah, I do. Well, thank you for that.
Of course,
your experience shows. I just wanted to say, when you were talking about who's invested and one of the investors that I approached early on, she invested like immediately, and I was like, whoa, like I was actually surprised. I'm like, why, what made you invest, and what made you invest so quickly? And she said, you know what, Tegan, I've been sitting at tables talking about downtown revitalization for decades. And every 5 to 10 years, the conversation pops up again, and there's a group or committee created to try to solve that problem. And they bring in downtown leaders and businesses to figure out how to solve this problem. And she said, what you've presented to me with this project is a tangible way to put my money where my mouth is and actually say I'm doing it. Not just talking about it anymore, I'm doing it, and this is how I'm doing it. And this could be one of many ways that people can help revitalize downtown and participate in that.
Yeah, I think that's a very cool way of putting it, and just kind of like cutting right to the chase of of what might drive some of this investment and some of this interest. The RSP and TFSA thing is huge, obviously, as you guys know. Congratulations on all of this. I mean, I just I don't, Johnny, even in the chat, I see this guy like flies the plane, keeps us on track, is interacting with our chatters as well. But Johnny, just even your comment about, that Real Talk is supporting things that invest in downtown, because we have invested in downtown. You know what I mean, Johnny? Like, that's, I don't know, it's just kind of a big deal. We're trying to walk the walk as well,
Yeah, we love downtown.
Yeah.
And we need more people coming here. We need more people living and working and congregating downtown. Like Don just said, like people driving across town to go to get a coffee or driving to the West End or the South Side. Like, we want everyone to come down here and spend their money downtown, right?
100%.
And build up this city's name.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to you guys to this point. And if I know anything about the three of you, you're just getting started, which is great. Again, you can find this event, this open house that's coming up, Invest in Downtown Edmonton's Future. You can just Google that along with Eventbrite, or we'll link to it in the show notes. It's this Homestead Investment Co-operative open house and networking event, and anything that winds up for a happy hour at Foos is going to get our approval. Again, we've been hearing from Tegan Martin-Drysdale, Kyla Kazeil, and Don Iveson. Of course, Tegan, the founder of Homestead Investment Co-operative. Thanks for making time for us. It's nice to catch up. I've kind of like double dutied this as a catch up with the three of you. It's nice to see you again, and keep up the great work.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's great to see you again and see the success of your show.
Thanks. Who would have known, hey?
Yeah.
Just some young punks 15 years ago getting started. Yeah, here we are.
Awesome.
Here we are.
Pleasure.
Real Talkers Talk at ryanjesperson.com is where you can let us know what you think about this. If we changed any of your minds, or some of you decided to make a move based on this interview, we love hearing about that as well. Again, that's talk at ryanjesperson.com. This conversation made possible by incredible Real Talk partners like our friends at Athabasca University. That's Canada's open university. We want to give a big congratulations to the class of 2025 at Athabasca University. World-class accredited online degrees and courses designed so you can complete your education wherever and whenever it works for you. You got to check out Athabasca University's Instagram. They've been posting over the past couple of weeks, of course, convocations happening, right? And what I love about it, let me just call it up here to show you. It's Instagram.com, Athabasca U, and there it is. The stories here on all the different grads. It gives you a sense of what makes AU different. Like Linda Cowan, for example. She says, I wanted to prove that I still had it and that age was not a factor. And so for Linda, earning her degree was unfinished business. She left university decades ago for financial reasons. Lives in Niagara Falls, lucky her. Retired library technician. Still dreamed of becoming the first in her family to earn a university degree. And AU's flexible online learning model made it all possible. Linda's hearing impaired, so traditional classrooms weren't a good fit for her. But the self-paced nature of Athabasca University's courses allowed her to complete a Bachelor of General Studies from home on her own terms. Linda gives a shout out to her husband and her sons, says that she was able to tackle every single course with determination and curiosity, proving that learning truly has no age limit. This is just one of the grads, and I'm already feeling inspired to shout out to Linda Cowan and everybody else that, of course, has earned their degree or diploma from AU this spring. The learning continues through the year. You're not limited, of course, to the standard September to May. That's not how AU works. It's your pace, your schedule. You can learn more at athabascau.ca. And as we talk about improving our cities, as we talk about investing in our communities, how can we not shine a spotlight, a big one, on our friends at UCAN Youth Services, doing amazing work, helping young people out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. You can learn more about what they're doing with their relentless outreach work. That's 12 to 17-year-olds. And then, of course, the work opportunities, the employment and education placements for the 18 to 20-year-olds, 18 to 24 rather, that basically just need an open door in front of them, right? They're living, in many cases, at-risk lifestyles or maybe vulnerable members of our population, but so much potential. They just need somebody to show that faith in them and to give them an opportunity to shine. And that's what UCAN is doing. We encourage you to consider volunteer opportunities, corporate partnership opportunities. If you're in charge of entry-level hiring in your workspace,
And, of course, donations, too. They can use every single dollar. You learn more about what they're doing and why we're so passionate about it by finding them online at youcan.ca. So I figured, Johnny, we pool all our money and we buy into this thing. What do you think?
I tell you, I'd put every dollar into downtown, and let's do it.
Well,
let's invest. Let's go.
Well, I was like, as we're talking to Duane about what the markets are doing today, and of course this, what's going on between, and I can't even just say Israel and Iran. The United States is a big part of it as well, obviously. But the first thing that a lot of people do is look at the markets, and in many cases, as markets drop, which is not what's happening today, some people panic, and other people get super excited, and they go buy. And again, I'm going to say it one more time. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I am not an investor in this to this
Buy
point.
Bitcoin.
We're not getting paid for this. But as Tegan quite rightfully pointed out, it sucks for the existing owners. And I mean, many of them are like pension funds and banks and the like.
Yeah.
But these big commercial real estate properties, quite frankly, across the country and around the world, but we know particularly acutely in our home city, the values and the sale prices, a lot of these buildings are way below what they would have been pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And of course, as a buyer,
and after
that's
Ice
a
District
big,
and everything.
and after Ice District, I mean, you're right. There's a ton of factors, but it's a cool opportunity, and I'll be curious to see. I mean, they're obviously making it happen, but I'd be curious to see what ultimately that plays out, what this company or what this cooperative looks like 10 years from now.
Well, that's why we have them on here, because we love these initiatives. Like. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love convenience, but I don't want a downtown full of McDonald's and Starbucks. Like, I want Foos. I want Bijou.
Yeah.
I want El Jardin. I want the Alfred below us. I want all these. I want places that are original and bring culture and community and make Edmonton unique, right? Yeah. And like you just said, like the big commercial and the huge companies, they get first say because they have the money and they have the pull. And so when people come together like this and create amazing spaces, that's what I want to support. And I love downtown Edmonton, and it's growing. It's getting better. And, speaking of, I hate to keep bringing up the Oilers, like the Oilers are the center of downtown Edmonton, but
they drive a lot of it.
It is true. And like the community has changed down here, and it is for the better. And, you've got Fan Park. They're going to make that permanent. You've got phase 2 of Ice District coming closer to Grant McEwen, the stuff to the west and everything. And that stuff is all well and good. The big production, the amazing stuff, the reason people drive 2 hours out of town to go to a concert at the arena and spend time around here. But I love the original community-based places, and this is one of those places. And that's what I when I think of my favorite places in Vancouver or Toronto or Montreal, it's not big places that are corporate chains. It's the small, amazing places. It's the downstairs basement place where I heard reggae or funk band while having the best cocktail of my life. Yeah. Those are the places I want more of in Edmonton. And it is hard, like you heard Kyla say, because the return on those investments and especially the profit, it can be hard, especially for the first few years. So someone like her who has stuck it out with multiple places, those are the people I want building more spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of credibility with those three voices, and I some great comments here in our live chat as well. Ken K says more people living downtown will require better planning. For the homeless population, a better sense of security for people.
Sure.
Ken says, I've seen less sketchy shit on late night New York or London streets for sure. And I would say this. Well, I don't know. I mean, yes and no.
Touch pavement, I would say. Every major city has that side to it.
One of the things that Edmonton's really struggling with as well, and I mean, this is like a whole episode, so we won't really open the can here, but it does need to be on people's radar, is that the frontline social services in Alberta's capital city and in other cities, but in particular in the province of Alberta right now, have been either defunded entirely or are being underfunded by the province of Alberta, which is ramping up funding in other areas. Like, for example, faith-based social services are seeing an uptick in their funding, and non-faith-based, or they would refer to them as secular social services, are seeing a decrease. And that means that, people that are experiencing homelessness during the day in particular have literally
nowhere to go. Like there's no drop-in center. It's all shut down. Like, and that's just a fact. And so then you kind of look and it's like, these are human beings that are down and out, or however you want to phrase it. I mean, no disrespect, but you kind of go like, where are they supposed to go and what are they supposed to do? And so I think that Kent's right. You got to invest in those cities and you got to figure that out.
But it's also, it's multifaceted as well. Like you can't just build a place for a bunch of people who are down on their luck, addicted to drugs, experiencing houselessness. It's not going to work. You have to provide all the other levels of support for them to work. That's the mix we're not getting right here. But also, I'll just say, like, name me one city, Ryan Jesperson, that is handling the fentanyl crisis, that is handling houselessness, that is, you know what I mean? Every city in North America right now is dealing with these issues. This isn't something unique to Edmonton, and it's not a reason to come down on Edmonton at all. Any major city, especially one that's going through the growth that we are, is going to have these factors. You're going to see the lowest of the low when you come downtown, and you're also going to see the highest of the high. That's just how it is.
100%, and I think you're bang on with that. I just saw some other comments here from just sort of people chiming into our conversation. We just so appreciate our live tuning audience, and those of you that check it out later as well. Vent Fashion says, when markets drop is when you make a shopping list. When markets or gold hits and hits records, that's when you make a list of buyers to talk to. Erica says, I think it's important to help people where we can, but I think too many people are naive to the fact that many folks want to remain in certain lifestyles with no interest in changing. There may be a certain degree of truth to that. Doom Factory says maybe, but that shouldn't dissuade us from lowering the bar of entry for people who want to access help. Says, I suspect the number of people who need help and want it is much higher than those that don't, which I think is a great and empathetic comment as well. Justin says, I enjoy spending time downtown when I feel secure. I'm attending events like a farmer's market or Taste of Edmonton or what have you. He says, but there are streets and areas that I would not feel safe on even during the day. And maybe that holds true with all kinds of cities. So appreciate your comments. Keep them coming to talk at ryanjesperson.com, and we'll have more to come on this in the days and weeks, obviously, as we talk about this. What are you laughing at? Are you
just like I said, name any city, and then, Wise Kyla in the chat's like, Hartford, Connecticut. It's like 100,000 people. Like, I mean, major.
What is he serious? Is Hartford doing a good job?
I guess.
Well,
it's probably easy when you have less than 1 million people in a major city.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that means less tax base, less funding, but interesting. Well, I'll Google that, Kyle. I'm just Googling Hartford and opioids. We'll see what happens. Interesting. I love when people put that on our radar. I also saw somebody in the live chat. It says, I'm looking a little bit sun-weathered today.
Weathered?
Didn't we used to say tanned?
It's like a compliment, but a backhand.
I don't think it's a compliment.
Sun-tanned would have been nice if they said you were looking rosy or warm or glowing, but no,
sun-weathered. Okay, well, thank you. I guess you can be like tanned up to age 45, and then you become sun-weathered. But we're going to be sharing some highlights and stories and from our Real Talk Golf Classic on our next episode. We just had an unbelievable time out there, you guys. We'll announce our fundraising total tomorrow. If you subscribe to our Real Talk email for free, then you already know how much we raised. You've already seen some photos, but you can subscribe to our email. Again, that's an email that shares the highlights and some insights and behind-the-scenes stuff. Go to ryanjesperson.com, scroll to the bottom of the page to subscribe to the email. And then in our most recent episode, or not our most recent episode, what would have been on Monday, we were really proud to support the University of Alberta Chancellor's Cup. This has been going for 24 years. This is a big fundraiser through the University of Alberta Chancellor's Office and the Senate to raise funds for really important educational programs there. That one out at the Glendale Golf and Country Club. We had an absolute blast. As I walked into the Glendale, head pro comes up to me and he goes, I hear that you and Infamous are here on July 3rd. I said, yeah, we're going to be, buddy. We're hosting, of course, hosting the dinner at the Glendale Ladies Member Guest. I think that's going to be a really good time.
I can't wait for that. It's going to be awesome. Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. Our first episode of every week, our friends at Solar by Kuby set the table for us to celebrate something, to shine a light on something that's inspired us, that's filled our hearts, that's restored our faith in humanity. It's Positive Reflections, presented by Kuby. And this one gets a little bit personal. As a matter of fact, as personal and wonderful and as happy as it gets for a valued member of the Real Talk audience. You hear us read Justin's comments in the live chat. Justin is an amazing supporter of the show. He attended
our most recent event. That was our Real Talk Patreon debate night viewing party at Arcadia Brewing Company. He's always there in the live chat as a member of our YouTube channel, and we just couldn't appreciate Justin anymore. Well, we are thrilled to congratulate Justin and his family on the arrival of his beautiful daughter, Violet. Violet was born a week ago yesterday, 1:42 a.m. Johnny, and at that point, the Edmonton Oilers were still in contention to win the Stanley Cup, and Justin made sure that beautiful Violet was already wearing her Violet Oilers jersey, Violet number 25. I love that. He says we're all thrilled. Violet healthy, happy. Justin says, I am a very proud papa over here. Justin, we've got all day for family updates when it comes to members of the Real Talk community. He shared these photos with us on our Real Talk community chat. That's on Discord. That's for Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members. And we, when got his permission, said, Justin, everybody needs to see these. What a reminder of how beautiful life is, how we can cherish every single moment. And Violet, what lies ahead for her? What will Violet do? Will Violet be the next Canadian MVP of a pro sports team? Will Violet be the next Prime Minister of Canada?
I hope Violet lives in downtown Edmonton and becomes a vibrant part of our community and gives back to it.
More details at downtowninvestment.com. But anyway, in all sincerity, Justin, to you and your family and to your beautiful daughter, Violet, we're so thrilled for you and much love from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate you. Look at this. My face hurts from smiling. And I hope that this made you smile too, pal. The rest of you as well. You can send us your positive reflections anytime, 24 hours a day, to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Make sure you put positive reflections in the subject line. And don't forget, proudly presented by Solar by Kuby, you can get a free solar quote today by visiting Kuby. That's KUBY.ca. Coming up on the next episode of the show, of course, we're going to follow up on the top stories making news around the world. Prime Minister Mark Carney's in Europe right now cutting big deals. We'll get into that. And then we're going to meet three of the winners of the Alberta Business Awards of Distinction. They handed those out same night we were holding our golf classic. Of course, many deserving winners all gathering together under that big umbrella that is the Alberta Chambers of Commerce. A little bit later on in the week, we're going to check in with Supriya Dwivedi. Plus, we've got a follow-up on that library book story. The Alberta government has wrapped its public poll, and they've released the results. We'll dig into it. And then a wonderful Indigenous Tourism Roundtable coming up this Friday. That's going to be the 27th of June. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thanks for telling your friends about the show. And thanks for engaging, Real Talkers. We appreciate you more than you could possibly know. We'll talk to you again soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.